We're going to try something a little different today. I just finished a day full of back-to-back private one-on-one sessions, and a client asked one question that I thought was really insightful and answered it for them and realized this is probably a question that a lot of people run into, and that's how do you handle a family member who causes a lot of irritation, frustration, or disruption in the household? How should you handle that while still remaining true to yourself, still remaining on your spiritual path, and overall just trying to be a decent human without causing more strife in the family? And this actually opens up this really beautiful topic, and it's one of the more beautiful skill sets in this world of spiritual development and inner healing. But first, let me set the scene. So you're with your family, and one family member, usually that family member, says something or does something that pushes someone's buttons, maybe your own. And it really gets under your skin. And without even blinking, you feel this irritation rising up. And your mind kicks in and you're thinking, why can't they just be better? Why can't they behave better? Why can't they be decent? Why do they have to be so rude or irritating? What have you? And the mind is just going. The emotions are rising up. You find yourself getting close to maybe even losing your temper with them. And it's so frustrating. And here's the thing. Even after the experience is over, you may leave the entire encounter with the family, and your mind may still, hours or even days later, kick back in thinking about it, and you find yourself rehashing it, dwelling on it, reminding yourself of everything that was said and how annoying it was, and you find yourself getting upset all over again. And this scene is all too common. There's nothing wrong with you if you've been in that situation, nothing at all. It's completely understandable. But today I want to share with you a technique to help resolve that kind of situation in the future and actually help head it off before it even starts. And it's probably something that you've never heard before. I have never in my life heard another person teach this skill set aside from my dad. And if you're new here, I started this channel sharing the spiritual wisdom and life wisdom that my dad passed on to me and completely transformed my life for the better. I went from anxious, depressed, PTSD, chronic pain, migraines, you name it, as an executive in Silicon Valley. I had on paper what people thought was a good life, but inside I was absolutely miserable and felt like I couldn't tell anyone that. And it was through working with my dad and learning about these deeper spiritual truths and psychological truths about life that changed everything. And so I left the job and I started a business teaching it. And then eventually started this YouTube channel to also share more of this information widely and freely with whoever wants to learn. So with that, let's get into how to handle irritation as it rises up with your family. Now, the common belief is that we can't change people. It just can't be done. I would personally argue that that's not entirely true. We can help change people for the better. And what if I told you there's a way to do so without even saying a word to the other person? You can help resolve or even prevent any of these conflicts in the family early on and actually help yourself in the process. This is opening up a truly beautiful and magical aspect of the human soul and the human mind, and how it can be used and channeled to help end frustration and irritation in your family for good. Now, when someone really frustrates us, understandably, our mind leaps first to our reaction to their behavior. We think about how they may have hurt our feelings, offended us, or maybe put us at some kind of disadvantage in some way. And again, that makes perfect sense. But the real magic lies in learning how to take your attention off your own reaction and instead move it onto their behavior, because it's going to tell you something very insightful about what's going on inside of them. Now, just for a moment, Think briefly of a wise person that you have met or seen somewhere. Very wise, perhaps a spiritual teacher, maybe a guru, a teacher of some sort. And they are often very calm, collected, confident wherever they go, and they're unflappable. They don't get riled up by things. And don't worry, this is not going telling you that you should just change how you react. No. This is an actual skill set that you're going to learn today. But just for a moment, think of someone very wise, calm, and centered that you've seen somewhere in your life. And think about how they carry themselves. They can be in any room with any group of people, it doesn't matter who, and they're always authentically themselves. They're always the same version of themselves everywhere they go. And largely, that is because they have learned how to heal their own inner wounds. They have learned to get over and move through and heal insecurities, self-doubts, concerns, or fears that they've been holding on to. And because of that, they've cultivated this tremendous freedom inside. This freedom where they feel confident and safe just being fully themselves everywhere they go. But of course, that type of person is quite rare in our modern society. The vast majority of people that you run into are operating from a place of woundedness, of inner pain. They are walking through life every single day and night, holding on to past traumas, whether in childhood or during adulthood, failures that they hope no one ever finds out about, painful rejections and breakups or divorces, lost opportunities, insecurities about their body or their purpose or their even value in the world. I mean, the list goes on and on. And nearly every single person that you will encounter in every area of your life has this happening inside of themselves, and they are protecting it so intensely. They don't want anyone to get close to this pain, this woundedness inside. And that includes your family members. Often they are holding on to pain that you know nothing about and experiences failures, traumas that they don't share with anyone, even with their closest family members. A truth of life is that every person who causes pain or discomfort or irritation to another is operating from a place of pain in some way. Only healed people go through life without leaving a wake of pain and irritation behind themselves. It's true what they say, hurt people hurt people. If we look now at your family members, particularly the ones that tend to cause you the most frustration or irritation in life, we can then attach this truth to them and know that if they are behaving that way, if they are treating others in a less than satisfactory way, they are likely coming from a place of pain within themselves. They are trying desperately to either distract themselves from the pain that they feel boiling away inside themselves, or they're trying to distract and hide it from all of you. So often they'll resort to kind of childish antics, anything they can do to get people to not know what they're dealing with inside, the pain, the insecurity, the self-doubt, and very often the self-hatred. And for these people, their behavior is completely impersonal. It has nothing to do with you or anyone else. They are just behaving and they're living from a place of quiet desperation. But the desperation for what exactly? Because that is important here. Because people like this, who tend to cause discomfort or irritation towards others, especially habitually, they're often disregarded by society. They're just written off as difficult personality types, or they're just aggressive, they're just frustrating, they're just weird, what have you, without anyone taking time to understand why they're behaving the way they are and what it's signaling, and more importantly, what we should do about it. Often they go their entire lives without anyone ever taking the time to accept them as they are, to try to understand them, and most importantly, to try to identify or even acknowledge what's good in them, what their gifts are. For many people, they go their entire lives without another human being ever acknowledging their gifts. What's good, what's beautiful deep inside of them. And that's nothing physical. It has nothing to do with looks or appearance. It's true character traits or spiritual gifts, anything inside of them. And they go so long without it being acknowledged or loved by another person that they often begin to forget themselves. And they start focusing only on what's wrong with themselves. And it becomes this vicious cycle of they're dealing with woundedness and fear, insecurity, and then they also are now focusing only on those things or what they consider to be failures inside themselves. And it just gets stronger and stronger, like a snowball rolling down the hill, gaining momentum. And when this happens, it creates a sense of panic inside the person and a sense of a desperate need for attention, for validation. And so you may see them start acting out in wild or erratic ways, trying to get some form of attention, of acceptance, of approval, anything, because they don't even know how to give it to themselves anymore. Maybe they've never given it to themselves, and a very strong likelihood that they've never received it from another person. And this is where the opportunity lies. And this is how you can start living as a lighthouse of healing and good for your entire family. And it's a beautiful practice, one that I have seen just work almost miracles in a very short period of time. So first, I'm going to teach you the practice, the exact steps of it, and then next I'll go into why it works and an example from one of my clients. So the actual practice involves shining love and spiritual light into the gifts or the good qualities of this difficult person. And you may hear that and think, I could never. I can assure you, you can. I've been there and I've watched so many of my clients in incredibly challenging situations and relationships do this and see remarkable results within 24 to 48 hours. It can work that quickly because you have to realize people everywhere are so hungry for acceptance and approval. We live in the age of judgment. People pass judgment on each other for a wide number of reasons. But it's painful and it's crippling to the soul because we're not meant to live that way. We're meant to live accepting ourselves fully, knowing that the divine made us perfectly for our role in the world, that there's nothing wrong with us. But of course, that's not the experience that most people have. I went through that myself. I lived with just crippling levels of low self-esteem for much of my life. And coming out of it was a deeply emotional and impactful process that I'll never forget it. And it really all started from my dad loving into my gifts before I had the courage to love them myself. So I've lived it. I've been on both ends of this practice. I can tell you it works wonders. So how do you actually do this? What are the actual steps? I'll show it to you. We'll break it down into 3 steps. The first, I recommend when you start practicing this, doing it alone. So get somewhere where you can be by yourself for just a few minutes. A lot of my clients like to practice this at night before bed. First step, close your eyes. Second step, get clear on who the person is that you're focused on. So see them in your mind's eye and focus just on them. And step 3, identify 2 to 3 good qualities in them. Maybe they have a good sense of humor. Maybe they're really great with animals. Maybe they're a really hard worker, or they're a loyal friend to some people. Maybe they are really committed to their beliefs, even if you don't share the same beliefs. Whatever it is, identify 2 to 3 good qualities in them and don't let them be physical traits of their appearance. They need to be something deeper about the real them. And then you're going to focus on shining light or love into them. View those gifts as small, forgotten children that are just dying to be loved, because that's really true about the situation. So you focus on quietly, from a distance, loving into those gifts. You can do it for even just a minute. Loving into them, knowing that these are gifts in them that they haven't even learned how to love themselves. Now you may feel some emotion rise up, some hesitation when it comes to loving into someone who you feel frustrated by. You can rise over that. You can rise above it. You must. We all must. That is the journey of life, is learning how to love ourselves and love others. And it starts with practices like this. So you'll focus in on 2 to 3 of their gifts, loving into them. You don't need to be near them at all. You can even be on different sides of the world, and it still works just as well. And it's almost as if you are shining love from your heart center into those gifts. You can hold there, just focusing on it for a minute or two, can be very quick, and then that's the practice. But I encourage you to do this every single day for at least 2 weeks. Now you'll likely start seeing a shift in the person within the first few days. I'd say I tend to hear about big changes within 48 to 72 hours, but stick with it. 2 weeks. Remembering this person has likely gone their entire life, never having a single person do this for them. It's as if they're in a desert dying of thirst, and you are the person bringing them a drink of water. You may very well be the very first person in their entire life to ever love something about them, to ever take the time to see the good in them. Now, one of my clients practiced this a while back, and she was going through a period of just chaos in her family. It was really, really difficult, and it was largely caused by one family member. So she began practicing this, and within 3 days, that family member came to her, took her by the hand, and said, "I just want you to know, I know I've been difficult, but I can't tell you just how much I appreciate you." Things in the family started easing. Their behavior started improving. The tension in the family began melting away. And my client had tears in her eyes. She didn't say anything to the family member. She took no credit. She never told them what she'd been doing at night. Never once. And that's very important. We take no credit for it. We know that this is spiritual energy. This is the divine. This is love passing through us. Nothing more. It's passing through us. The second you take credit for it, it shuts off the flow because it's going against life. But if you take no credit and you instead just act as this beautiful divine channel, sending love, being used to send love into someone who's starving for it, you too can have experiences like that. Just 3 days, and everything began changing in the entire family. Now let's move on to the second part, and just a brief explanation of why this works. How is this working? How could something so simple, instead of going to a big intervention or a therapy session or something with all of the family, why could something so simple as simply loving their gifts work? When you do this, what you're actually doing is you are shining not just love, but the energy of your soul into their gifts, which is living in alignment with life. We are built to help each other, to uplift each other, to encourage each other, not to tear each other down, not to judge or condemn or criticize. So when you do this practice, you're moving into alignment with life, with your soul. And you are actually sending that love and helping to energize and charge the very things in them that maybe they have been too scared to even acknowledge are good within them. Now, they won't know where it's coming from, but they will feel a shift rather quickly. Suddenly, they might have a little more confidence. They'll start waking up a bit happier. You may watch their posture change Their shoulders might come back a bit more, their chin up. They start feeling more genuine pride in themselves. Not the unhealthy, egoic pride, but just knowing that there's something good, there's something special about them. And it could be the first time they've ever felt that way. And it's just because of you taking a couple of minutes in the evening to just love something that's good about them. And you can practice this with anyone in your family. You can practice this with children or with adults. And it is a beautiful practice to teach children to do. They can do that to their friends quietly as long as they're not taking credit. They can do this with family members. You can do this at work with difficult coworkers or bosses. This can be done anywhere. Loving into the gifts, finding what's good in them, loving into it, taking no credit, and just watching the magic unfold of how much one person's life can change simply by having one person believe in them. So I hope this week you will try out this technique. Try loving into their gifts. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments below what kind of reactions you received, what changes you saw. How did it go for you? I'd love to hear. You can ask any questions as well. I'm telling you, this practice is just, it can actually change someone's life. So I hope you'll try and start standing as the lighthouse for your family.